Welcome back to Lions News Fan Report, where every day we dive deep into the latest rumors, reports, and updates surrounding your Detroit Lions. Today, we have something absolutely fascinating to break down, something that, if it materializes, could shape the very future of the Lions defense for years to come. I'm talking about none other than Xavier, the two-time All-American safety from Notre Dame, and the very real buzz that the Detroit Lions are exploring every possible avenue to bring him into the fold. Buckle up, because this story gets more exciting the deeper we go. First, let's step back and talk about who Xavier really is, because even though college football fans know his name well, the magnitude of what he achieved over the past 2 seasons deserves to be properly appreciated. Watts wasn't just good, he was elite. In 2023, he led college football with 7 interceptions, becoming an absolute nightmare for quarterbacks who dared test his side of the field. Then, in 2024, he somehow managed to replicate that magic with 6 more picks, solidifying his reputation as one of the most dangerous ball hawks in the nation. We're talking about a player with elite instincts, tremendous athleticism, and a sixth sense for where the ball is going to be, traits that are exceedingly rare even at the NFL level. It's not just the interceptions, though. Watts' overall presence on the field was magnetic. He has that rare ability to shift the momentum of a game in a single play. Whether it's a diving pick, a perfectly timed hit that jars the ball loose, or closing down on a receiver to force an incompletion, Watts just knows how to impact games in ways that don't always show up on the stat sheet. Coaches dream about players like this. Defensive coordinators build entire schemes around talents like this. And when you combine that kind of playmaking ability with an off-the-charts work ethic and high football IQ, you get a player who can change the culture of a defense the moment he steps into the locker room. And now, if the rumors are true, the Detroit Lions are in serious pursuit. From what we're hearing, Detroit's front office, especially GM Brad Holmes and head coach Dan Campbell, have been keeping extremely close tabs on Watts throughout the draft process. Private workouts, intense film review sessions, long interviews digging into his character and mindset, all the behind-the-scenes work that usually indicates a team isn't just interested, but absolutely locked in on a player. And honestly, it makes all the sense in the world when you consider the direction this team is headed. Think about the current state of the Lions secondary. Kirby Joseph has been phenomenal, a true ball hawk with range and instincts that have made him a cornerstone of the defense. Brian Branch, too, has been nothing short of sensational, providing versatility, toughness, and a physical presence that gives the Lions options against the increasingly complex offenses in today's NFL. But after those two, the depth chart gets thin, and that's where Watts becomes so incredibly appealing. He's not just a depth piece, he's the kind of player who can come in, contribute immediately, and eventually take on a starring role, either alongside Joseph and Branch or as insurance if injuries or contract situations complicate things down the road. Now, some people might ask, if the Lions already have 2 young studs at safety, why invest heavily in another? And the answer is simple. In today's NFL, you can never have too many dynamic playmakers on defense. Offensive schemes are evolving at a rapid pace. Teams are rolling out 3 and 4 receiver sets almost every down. Tight ends are bigger, faster, and more skilled than ever before. Running backs are catching passes out of the backfield like wide receivers. Defenses need flexibility. They need depth. They need players who can move around the formation, match up with different types of threats, and create turnovers. Xavier Watts checks every one of those boxes, and then some. From a scheme perspective, adding Watts could unlock some incredibly creative possibilities for Detroit. Imagine a 3-safety set where Joseph roams deep, Branch takes on the hybrid nickel/linebacker role, and Watts operates in that middle range, reading the quarterback's eyes and baiting him into mistakes. With his anticipation and closing speed, Watts could feast in that role, jumping routes and flipping games with sudden, game-breaking turnovers. And under Kelvin Shepard's aggressive defensive philosophy, you can bet they'd find ways to maximize every ounce of Watts' playmaking instincts. Financially, it makes even more sense. Rookie contracts are affordable, and building around young, cost-controlled players gives teams the flexibility to pay big dollars elsewhere, like along the offensive line or at premium positions like pass rusher and quarterback. Drafting a talent like Watts would allow the Lions to maintain a strong secondary without breaking the bank, ensuring they have resources available to lock up other core pieces of their roster in the years ahead. But let's be real, the biggest reason Lions fans should be excited is simple. Xavier Watts is a winner. At Notre Dame, he didn't just put up stats, he led. He set the tone. He played with heart, intelligence, and a relentless drive to get better every single week. That's the exact kind of mentality Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have been cultivating in Detroit from day one. It's not about flash or hype. It's about grit, about outworking your opponent, about biting kneecaps if you have to, and what fits that ethos perfectly. Now, the big question, how likely is it that Detroit actually lands him? Here's where things get really intriguing. Most draft analysts have what's projected in that late first to early second round range. The Lions are picking late in the first round, but there's a growing sense they could either stay put and hope what falls to them, or even package some picks to move up a few spots if they believe there's a real risk of missing out. And knowing Brad Holmes' history of aggressive, targeted moves, like jumping up for Jahmyr Gibbs last year, you can bet that if they're serious about Watts, they won't hesitate to pull the trigger. It's also worth noting that other teams are reportedly very high on Watts too. The Chiefs, the Ravens, even the Dolphins have been linked to him in various reports. So the Lions can't afford to be passive if they truly view him as a difference maker. Every draft pick is a gamble to some extent, but Watts feels like the kind of player who could be a safe, smart, and potentially franchise-altering investment. And here's another wrinkle. What if Detroit isn't just thinking short-term, but long-term championship window? Building an elite secondary now, before offenses adjust to the Lions' growing dominance in the trenches, could be a masterstroke. By the time other teams are scrambling to counter Detroit's D-line pressure and Jared Goff's explosive offense, Detroit could already have a lockdown secondary in place, anchored by Joseph, Branch, and Watts, ready to smother any comeback attempt. There's even been speculation that Watts could become the emotional leader of the defense over time. That's how highly some scouts and coaches think of his intangibles. Imagine a player who not only produces on Sundays but elevates everyone around him, setting the tone in the locker room, on the practice field, in the film room. That's what true dynasties are built on, players who demand greatness from themselves and their teammates. At the end of the day, there are no guarantees in the NFL. Draft picks bust. Injuries happen. Plans go awry. But when you find a player who checks every box, production, talent, intelligence, leadership, cultural fit, you don't hesitate. You pounce. And right now, Xavier Watts looks like that player for the Detroit Lions. So Lions fans, get ready. Because if Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell decide to make their move, we could be welcoming a future star to Detroit very, very soon. And if that happens, the rest of the NFL better watch out. The Lions are coming, and with Xavier Watts roaming the secondary, they might be coming faster, harder, and stronger than anyone ever imagined. Let me know in the comments what you think. Are you all in on Xavier Watts? Should the Lions do whatever it takes to get him? Or do you think there's another position they should prioritize first? I can't wait to hear what you all have to say. Thanks for hanging out with me today at Lions News Fan Report. Smash that like button if you enjoyed today's deep dive, subscribe for more daily Lions updates, and turn on those notifications because, trust me, you don't want to miss a second of what's coming next. Until next time, one pride, baby. Let's go get that ring.